Look around you. The modern landscape of self-improvement is completely broken. It is a shallow, frantic, reactive playground built for boys masquerading as men. On one side, you have the loud-mouthed, adrenaline-fueled disciples of hustle culture. They scream at you from short-form videos to wake up at 4 a.m., drink black coffee, scream at the mirror, and run yourself into the dirt through sheer, blind aggression. They equate power with posture, and masculinity with noise. It is an exhausting, hyper-reactive performance born out of a deep, shivering fear of being found inadequate. On the other side of this broken coin, you have a hyper-intellectualized, fragile, and sterile framework. It strips a man of his primal drive, his edge, and his ferocity. It turns him into a passive observer who can analyze a problem for hours, but lacks the stomach to execute a definitive, high-stakes decision in the real world. He is competent on paper, but entirely incapable of commanding a room or inspiring respect. Both paradigms are a trap. Both paradigms are incomplete. The truly exceptional man. The man who moves through this world with an inspiring, terrifying gravity, who commands unshakable authority, and who builds a real-world kingdom, is what we call the integrated man. The integrated man is a walking paradox. He is ferocious yet profoundly mature. He possesses the raw, penetrating drive of the masculine alongside the receptive, intuitive, and alchemical intelligence of the feminine. He understands ancient spiritual sovereignty, yet he builds cutting-edge technical architecture. He does not shout, because his competence speaks with a weight that makes shouting obsolete. This video is not a motivational speech. This is not a collection of life hacks. This is a complete, granular, biological, and psychological blueprint designed to deconstruct what you have been told about power and rebuild you into an unshakable sovereign force. Get a notebook. Remove every distraction. Clear your mind of everything you've learned from internet gurus. Welcome to the architecture of integrated Audacity. Let's establish a hard, cold baseline truth before we talk about mindset or strategy. Audacity is not an intellectual concept. It is a bioenergetic state. If your nervous system is permanently fried, if your hormonal profile is sluggish, if your blood sugar is a roller coaster, and if your circadian biology is fractured, your brain will inherently and mathematically default to survival, comfort, and risk aversion. When your biology is weak, your mind cannot afford to be brave. Courage requires a physiological surplus. To build an unshakable presence, we must first engineer a high-performance biological machine. This begins with what I call the non-negotiable anchoring window. The first 60 minutes of your day dictate the neurochemical baseline of your entire waking reality. Most men begin their day in a state of pathetic, reactive dopamine consumption. They reach for a smartphone while their eyes are still half closed. They flood their brains with synthetic blue light, low-context notifications, and emails. They instantly throw their nervous system into a sympathetic, fight-or-flight state of baseline anxiety. To anchor true audacity, you must replace this reaction with a precise, localized biological stress protocol. 3 steps. Non-negotiable. First, photonic ingestion. Within 10 minutes of waking, step outside. Your eyes must receive direct, unfiltered sunlight. Not through a window, not through your car windshield, and absolutely not through a screen. This triggers an immediate, timed release of cortisol from your adrenal glands. This cortisol spike serves as your internal biological alarm clock, clearing residual sleep pressure from your brain, while simultaneously setting a countdown timer for your body's nocturnal melatonin production. Second, thermal shock localization. Expose as much of your skin as possible to the ambient temperature of the morning, whether it is the crisp winter cold or the heavy summer heat. Do not shelter your body from the environment immediately. This mild, ambient thermal stress forces your autonomic nervous system to self-regulate. It builds raw, somatic resilience from the moment you breathe the morning air. Third, explosive neurochemical ignition. Immediately following your light exposure, execute exactly 3 minutes of maximum effort, explosive movement. This is not your daily workout. Do not go to the gym for this. This is a neurological ignition switch. Pick up a heavy kettlebell and perform maximum effort swings. Execute a dead hang from a pull-up bar into maximum chin-ups until your forearms scream. Perform explosive medicine ball slams. This brief, intense burst forces an acute cortisol to testosterone spike. It flushes your system with dopamine and norepinephrine, programming your nervous system for dominance before you engage with a single human being or digital interface. Once your morning is anchored, you must optimize your nocturnal recovery through the 3-hour digestion rule for somatotropic optimization. Physical authority is visually communicated through dense muscle tissue, low systemic inflammation, and a sharp, alert facial structure. This aesthetic is direct currency generated by human growth hormone, or HGH. The vast majority of your daily HGH output occurs during deep, slow-wave sleep. However, this critical release is instantly blunted if insulin is elevated in your bloodstream. Your final meal of the day must be completed exactly 3 hours before your head hits the pillow. No exceptions. No late-night protein shakes, no casual snacks, no liquid calories. Furthermore, this final meal must be mathematically engineered. It must consist of high-density, bioavailable proteins and clean fats. Think pastured eggs, wild-caught fish, or grass-fed meats, paired exclusively with fibrous non-starchy vegetables. By eliminating refined sugars and complex carbohydrates from this evening window, you ensure that insulin drops to absolute baseline as you enter deep sleep. This allows your pituitary gland to release massive, uninhibited pulses of growth hormone. Over a sustained period, this optimization manifests as rapid physical recovery, a leaner, more commanding physique, and an elite level of cognitive clarity every single morning. The final biological pillar is the grip and gaze neurological conditioning. Human beings possess deep evolutionary software that scans other males for danger, competence, and authority within milliseconds of an encounter. The two primary visual metrics our ancestors scanned for, and that modern humans still unconsciously evaluate, are the strength of a man's grip and the stability of his eyes. A shaky, darting gaze signals submission or deception. A weak grip signals physical incompetence. You must train true ferocity into your distal extremities. Incorporate dedicated heavy static holds into your training. Utilize fat grips for heavy dumbbell carries. Execute timed dead hangs from a thick bar with maximal manual constriction. Crush the iron handles on your heavy rows. This builds dense, vascular forearms and a handshake that communicates absolute structural integrity. Concurrently, you must train your visual system to decouple from your body's panic response. During moments of extreme physical exertion, such as the final reps of a heavy deadlift set, or during high-intensity cardiovascular output, force your eyes to lock onto a single, stationary point in space. Do not let your gaze wander, do not dart your eyes, and do not blink rapidly. By maintaining a calm, steady visual focus while your body is under intense physical duress, you train your brain's frontal lobe to override your amygdala. You are actively conditioning your nervous system to remain cold, analytical, and visually dominant when the world around you enters a state of absolute chaos. The standard internet advice tells you that emotion is a weakness, vulnerability is a flaw, and power is achieved by becoming an unfeeling block of stone. That is a lie. That is not strength. It is fragility masquerading as armor. A man who must constantly hide behind a mask of unfeeling stoicism is a man who is terrified of his own internal ocean. The integrated man understands that true, mature audacity requires integrating the hidden dimensions of what is traditionally called feminine energy, deep receptivity, sharp intuition, emotional endurance, and aesthetic sensitivity. This integration does not weaken your masculine drive. It channels it, sharpening it into an irresistible, highly sophisticated authority. This integration manifests first in the active devouring listening style. Most men are profoundly weak listeners. When someone else speaks, their minds are racing, compiling a rebuttal, formatting an answer, or projecting their own ego onto the conversation. They display nervous micro-movements, nod their heads excessively to gain approval, and use vocal interruptions to assert their presence. It is painful to watch, and it is a manifestation of deep-seated insecurity. The integrated man practices an intimidating, highly sophisticated form of listening. When an individual, a business partner, or a rival is speaking to you, drop your body into complete, absolute physical stillness. Do not fidget with your hands, do not shift your weight, and do not nod your head. Your physical presence should resemble a stone monolith. Maintain unbroken, relaxed eye contact. Do not look away to process information. Absorb not just the words they are saying, but the cadence of their voice, the shifting of their pupils, the tension in their jaw, and the emotional undercurrent running beneath their speech. And when they finish speaking, do not respond immediately. Let their final words hang in the air. Maintain your eye contact, and count to exactly 2 seconds in your mind before you emit a single sound. This silent pause is deeply disruptive to the average person's psyche. It signals that you are not reactive, that you cannot be hurried, and that your mind is processing their input with deep, heavy, and deliberate intelligence. You do not just hear them. You devour their emotional landscape. The second emotional discipline is voluntary vulnerability as an absolute weapon. Weak men live in constant terror of being found out. They hide their ignorance, mask their insecurities behind hollow bluster, and refuse to admit mistakes because they believe an admission of error will shatter their fragile authority. The integrated, mature man understands that absolute transparency is an unmatched psychological weapon. When you make a tactical error, when a business projection fails, or when you realize you lack information on a complex topic, do not deflect, do not make excuses, and do not attempt to smooth it over. Look directly at your team, your audience, or your adversary and state the truth with absolute, casual calm. Say, "I was incorrect about that metric. Let's pivot immediately," or "I do not possess enough data on this architecture yet. I will master it by tomorrow." Deliver this admission without a single hint of self-flagellation, shame, or emotional defensiveness. State it as a cold, objective, boring fact. This displays a terrifying level of self-assurance. It signals to everyone in the room that your confidence is not derived from a performance of perfection, but from your unshakable capacity to handle reality. You become completely immune to insults, call-outs, or exposed errors because you have already voluntarily weaponized your transparency. There is nothing left for an opponent to expose. This emotional mastery culminates in a practice I call alchemical channeling. A man who vents his rage, frustration, or sorrow through explosive outbursts is a slave to his emotional environment. A man who suppresses his negative emotions fractures his physical health and dulls his creative edge. The audacious man treats negative emotional energy as high-octane fuel for immediate, practical output. The moment you receive devastating news, a broken relationship, a betrayed contract, a failed launch, or a stinging public critique, you are flooded with an intense spike of adrenaline, cortisol, and raw emotional power. Do not call a friend to complain. Do not pick up a drink to numb it. Do not scroll social media to distract yourself. Instantly sit down at your desk, lock yourself in your studio, or open your terminal. Channel that raw, volatile energy directly into a highly complex, demanding task. Write a high-retention video script, program an intricate automation pipeline, map out a strategic market play, or execute a grueling physical training session. Force your brain to create high-value output while your heart is racing and your emotions are screaming. This sophisticated practice completely rewires your subconscious mind. It teaches your psyche a profound lesson. Chaos, friction, and emotional pain are not threats. They are simply raw energy inputs used to accelerate your empire. Let us be completely honest. Audacity without exceptional, undeniable competence is merely arrogance. It is a house of cards that collapses the moment it encounters a genuinely technical or rigorously intellectual environment. To command true authority in the modern era, a man must possess elite cognitive mechanics and an advanced technical architecture. You must be a builder, an engineer of systems, and a sovereign thinker who operates strictly from first principles. This begins with constructing agentic mental workflows. The average man's mind is a cluttered, reactive junkyard of unorganized thoughts, forgotten ideas, and low-value digital noise. He relies on raw memory and erratic emotional bursts to get things done. The technical, audacious man treats his mind as a high-performance CPU. He builds a highly organized digital architecture around it to automate low-level cognitive functions, liberating his human intelligence for high-level creative warfare. You must build an integrated personal knowledge engine. Every book you read, every technical script you analyze, every market alert you receive, and every creative spark that hits you must be systematically captured, tagged, and indexed into a centralized digital repository. Utilize advanced digital workflows and automated scripts to constantly scan, filter, and summarize macroeconomic indicators, technological breakthroughs, and cultural trends. Do not manually scroll for information. Let customized data aggregators feed your personal repository. When you speak, when you write, or when you create content, you must not pull from a shallow pool of yesterday's thoughts. You must query a highly structured, deep intellectual database that you have curated over years. This gives your speech a profound depth, an information asymmetry that leaves your peers wondering how you possess such rapid, precise clarity across so many complex domains. To feed this system, you must implement the 90-minute Gothic digital isolation block. The modern world has completely destroyed the human capacity for deep, sustained focus. The average man cannot sit with a complex technical problem or a deep piece of literature for more than 10 minutes without his hand reflexively reaching for a smartphone to chase a cheap dopamine hit. This widespread cognitive decay is your greatest competitive advantage. Set aside a non-negotiable 90-minute block every single day for intense, deep cognitive labor executed in absolute silence and isolation. Your smartphone must not just be on silent. It must be powered down and physically locked in an entirely separate room. Turn off all desktop notifications, close all browser tabs unrelated to your immediate task, and eliminate all background music or podcasts. Dive into a highly complex, high-friction technical or creative skill. Code a custom algorithmic module, write a complex multi-layered content script from scratch, dissect a dense philosophical text, or analyze complex market structures. For the first 20 minutes, your brain will scream for distraction. It will experience literal chemical withdrawal. Push past this friction. Once you enter the deep flow state, your cognitive processing scales exponentially. Cultivating this daily 90-minute block of pure, uninterrupted deep work builds a rare neurological capability, the ability to execute linear, complex thought at a level that a hyper-distracted society simply cannot match. This mental clarity must manifest in your communication through the first principles speech pattern. Intellectual mediocrity is heavily reflected in human language. Most men speak in derivatives, they repeat slogans, rely on vague generalizations, and quote summaries of summaries they read online. They frame their ideas around societal consensus, saying things like, "Well, everyone knows that," or "the general consensus is." This linguistic habit immediately communicates that they do not possess an original, sovereign mind. To project a mature, undeniable authority, you must forcefully adopt a first principles speech pattern. When presenting a concept, analyzing a business challenge, or delivering an idea, strip the topic down to its absolute, irrefutable baseline truths. Do not build arguments based on analogy or trend. Eliminate all lazy, qualifying words and ambiguous adjectives from your vocabulary. Stop using phrases like basically, sort of, kind of, or in a way. Speak with geometric precision. State the exact mechanics of a problem, the precise mathematical data of a market indicator, or the foundational psychological drivers of a human behavior. When your voice drops into an environment and speaks exclusively from a position of irrefutable, first principles reality, it carries immense weight. It sounds grounded, undeniable, and clean. You stop sounding like an internet commentator and start sounding like the chief architect of reality. Spirituality for the modern integrated man is completely divorced from weak, escapist, or passive philosophies. It is not an escape from the harsh realities of the physical world. It is the absolute grounding of your internal sovereignty, so deeply into reality that no external force can shake your center. It is the development of a psychological citadel that views every obstacle, failure, and chaotic event as deliberate fuel for your personal evolution. This internal sovereignty begins with a brutal daily practice, the daily funeral meditation. The vast majority of human anxiety, hesitation, and social cowardice stems from a singular, deep-seated delusion, the ego's unconscious belief that it is permanent, and that public opinion or social rejection carries existential weight. Men hold back their truest visions, swallow their words, and play it safe because they are terrified of temporary embarrassment or transient judgment from people they do not even respect. To shatter this cognitive cage, you must practice a daily funeral meditation. Every morning, before you engage with the economic arena, close your eyes for exactly 2 minutes. Visualize your own death. Do not view it as an abstract concept. See it in granular, visceral detail. Visualize your chest collapsing, your physical body cooling to ambient room temperature, and your consciousness slipping into an absolute, silent void. See your funeral, your body entering the dirt or fire, and watch the world continue to move on without your presence. Then, expand your vision out 100 years into the future. Realize that every single person who could ever judge you, mock you, critique your videos, or oppose your business goals will be dead, buried, and entirely forgotten by history. Your failures will be zero. Your successes will be zero. Now open your eyes. This deliberate crushing of your ego's delusion of permanence instantly strips the world of its terrifying power over you. It brings a profound, beautiful liberation. You realize that your time on this planet is an exceptionally brief, high-stakes flash of lightning. Spending even a single second of that flash playing small or fearing public opinion becomes a hilarious absurdity. That is the exact moment true, ferocious audacity is born. Once you are liberated from fear, you must adopt the amor fati standard. The average man possesses a fragile, reactive relationship with reality. When things go according to his plans, he is confident and pleasant. The moment friction appears, a market downturn, a piece of equipment breaking before a shoot, an unexpected legal hurdle, or a technological system crash, he descends into instant victimhood, cursing his luck, throwing tantrums, and leaking vital energy. The sovereign man operates on the ancient, unyielding principle of amor fati, not merely tolerating adversity, but passionately loving it. The moment a crisis hits, your internal dialogue must instantly and reflexively deploy a singular phrase. Superb. This makes the story better. If your channel suffers a sudden algorithm drop, if a partner backs out of a massive venture, or if a project crashes on launch day, you must view that obstacle not as an annoying inconvenience, but as a deliberate plot device introduced by the universe to test your resolve and elevate your narrative. When you love the friction, you become entirely unkillable. Your opponents can no longer hurt you, because every blow they strike is instantly reframed by your mind as a beautiful piece of dramatic tension that will make your ultimate victory look spectacular. You strip chaos of its power by eagerly integrating it into your design. This existential clarity requires a periodic purging of external inputs, which we achieve through sovereign solitude. Modern society is engaged in a continuous, coordinated assault on your internal clarity. Through algorithms, notifications, synthetic foods, and constant low-grade social interactions, your mind is perpetually seeded with other people's thoughts, anxieties, and desires. Most men have completely lost the ability to know who they actually are underneath the layers of cultural conditioning. Once every calendar quarter, you must execute a strict 24-hour block of sovereign solitude. Remove yourself entirely from your standard environment. Rent a simple cabin or lock yourself in an empty room. For 24 hours, you are permitted 0 digital devices, 0 external entertainment, meaning no books, no movies, no music, and 0 human contact. You are permitted only clean water, simple whole foods, a physical notebook, and a black ink pen. For the first 6 to 8 hours, your mind will experience acute withdrawal. It will thrash about, generating anxiety, random memories, and intense boredom. Let it thrash. Sit still on the floor and watch it. Past the 12th hour, a miraculous stillness descends upon the mind. The dust settles. With the digital noise completely drained from your neural pathways, your authentic vision, your core values, and your highest-level strategic insights will naturally bubble up to the surface. Write them down with your pen. A man who can sit completely alone in a room for 24 hours and survive his own unfiltered thoughts is a man who can no longer be programmed by society's consensus. You can possess pristine biology, deep emotional integration, elite technical capability, and spiritual clarity. But if your social dynamics are weak and your structural life is fragile, your audacity will remain an empty performance. True audacity must be backed by an unshakable real-world kingdom. You must master the subtle arts of social mechanics, presence, physical projection, and financial independence. This begins with mastering the anti-fragile social shadow. We live in an era of pathetic over-accessibility. Men leak their power by constantly being available, answering texts within seconds, oversharing their lives on social media stories, lingering in rooms long after their business is concluded, and begging for inclusion in every network. This frantic overexposure signals low value and high desperation. True audacity operates on the principles of calculated scarcity. Never let anyone know your full schedule, your exact daily metrics, or your upcoming strategic maneuvers. When you are in a room, a meeting, or on a live stream, be 100% focused, sharp, and impactful. Give massive, undeniable value. But the absolute second the core objective is achieved, exit. Do not hang around to consume gossip or kill time. Vanish back into your deep work blocks. This leaves a powerful psychological shadow. It forces people to expend their own mental currency wondering about your methods, your schedule, and your next move. Furthermore, adopt the zero affirmation conversational framework. When listening to someone speak in a social or professional setting, cut out all passive, nervous validation habits. Stop nodding your head like a toy to show you are listening. Stop interjecting with low-value filler words like yeah, right, or I get it. Keep your posture relaxed but structurally stable, lock your eyes onto theirs, and let them talk into an absolute pool of physical silence. This forces the speaker to internally regulate their own security, often causing them to reveal their true motives and positions far faster than they intended. And when met with direct disrespect, passive aggression, or an intentional social slight, treat it with supreme indifference. Do not react with defensive anger or compliance. Look the provocateur dead in their eyes, tilt your head slightly by a fraction of a degree, and maintain complete, unblinking silence for exactly 3 seconds. Let the awkwardness of their behavior fill the room like a heavy gas. Once the silence has completely broken their frame, calmly drop an entirely unrelated, highly practical question or topic change. This signals that their emotional trap didn't even register as a blip on your cognitive radar. You are entirely above their matrix of control. The peak of human charisma is found in a concept I call the king-courtesan paradox. Most men pick one identity and become a fragile caricature. The king archetype without refinement becomes a brutal, unrefined barbarian. The courtesan energy, which represents fluid, adaptive, magnetic, and aesthetic intelligence, without structure becomes chaotic and weak. The master of presence synthesizes these forces into a brilliant, paradoxical dance. This manifests first in the aesthetics of radical contrast. Your physical presentation must be a striking contradiction that immediately disrupts expectations. If your body is engineered to be highly masculine, dense, heavily muscled, rugged, with a powerful physique, your clothing and grooming must be hyper-refined and meticulously elegant. Wear tailored silhouettes, premium natural fabrics like heavy linen, structured corduroy, or crisp waffle knits. Maintain an immaculate grooming standard, and wear a subtle, high-end signature fragrance. The juxtaposition of raw, dangerous physical capability with ultra-sophisticated, elegant presentation creates immense psychological intrigue. It signals to the world that you possess both the power to execute and the ultimate self-discipline to refine yourself. This paradox reaches its operational peak in the gentle executioner persona. When structural boundaries are violated, when a contract is broken, or when an individual proves to be a liability to your empire, never resort to yelling, emotional outbursts, or hollow threats. True power is cold and quiet. enforce the consequence or terminate the relationship instantly, decisively, and completely, but do it with an unshakable, polite courtesy. Speak softly, look them in the eye, wish them well, and close the door forever. Delivering a devastating, ruthless operational decision with the calm, elegant manners of a diplomat is the absolute peak of mature masculinity. This presence is physically broadcast through advanced somatics. Before a single word leaves your mouth, your audience's nervous system has already mapped your stress levels and your internal security through your somatic resonance and vocal tone. You must train your body to project an undeniable aura of heavy gravity. Practice non-visual spatial expansion. In moments of high stakes, whether you are walking onto a stage, sitting across from an adversary, or staring into a camera lens, your natural instinct under stress is to compress your body to protect your vital organs. Force the absolute opposite reaction. Do not fake it by awkwardly puffing your chest or posturing aggressively. Instead, consciously relax your trapeze muscles, drop your shoulders down, and expand your ribcage through deep, lateral diaphragmatic breathing. Inhale deep into your back ribs and your pelvic floor. This physiological expansion instantly down-regulates your sympathetic nervous system, lowers your heart rate, and causes your physical frame to anchor into the ground with immense, unshakable mass. Concurrently, optimize your vocal mechanics. A high-pitched, fast-paced voice that originates from the throat or nasal cavity instantly communicates anxiety and low status. Your voice must be a deep, resonant instrument that originates from the abdomen and chest cavity. You can train this biomechanically during your morning routine. Spend exactly 2 minutes performing deep, low-frequency humming exercises on your exhalations. This direct physical vibration stimulates your vagus nerve, inducing a profound state of parasympathetic calm, while opening your vocal folds and dropping the natural pitch of your speech. Speak with a slower, deliberate cadence. Let your voice carry the weight of an unhurried mind. Let us speak with absolute candor. Your internal audacity is a dangerous illusion if you are one bad month away from financial ruin. If you are entirely dependent on a single corporate system, a single centralized platform, or the good graces of a fragile contract to feed your family, your audacity is nothing more than an expensive performance. Real authority requires an unyielding financial citadel. Your primary operational milestone is to build a distinct, isolated pool of liquid capital that can sustain your precise current lifestyle for 12 to 24 months with absolutely zero new revenue. This fund is not for investing. It is not for lifestyle inflation. It is your psychological armor. Knowing that you can walk away from any client, any toxic platform, any manipulative relationship, or any corrupted deal without blinking entirely transforms the acoustic resonance of your voice. It removes the subtle scent of desperation that ruins most men's negotiations. It grants you the ultimate luxury, the power to say no. With your citadel secured, you operate on the 80-20th asymmetric barbell strategy. Anchor 80% of your assets, your skills, and your energy into rock-solid, compounding, and deeply mastered core skill sets and bulletproof infrastructure. Then, take the remaining 20% and deploy it into hyper-aggressive, high-risk, wildly audacious asymmetric bets. Whether that is building a disruptive technical tool, executing high-conviction market strategies, or launching a bold, controversial content campaign, if the 20% bet fails, your citadel remains entirely untouched. If it wins, it scales your empire by 10x. Stop trading your human hours for financial returns. Adopt an automated, code-first leverage mindset. If an operational task can be scripted, automated, or delegated to an intelligent programmatic module, execute that transition immediately. Your irreplaceable human energy must be aggressively protected and reserved exclusively for high-level creative vision, macro-strategic architectural decisions, and raw, charismatic execution. We have laid out the entire architecture. We have dissected the biological engine, the emotional alchemy, the technical systems, the existential sovereignty, and the structural kingdom required to build true, unshakable audacity. Now the performance ends and reality begins. You can close this video, return to your reactive habits, pick up your phone, scroll for another cheap hit of dopamine, and remain a derivative, fragile component of someone else's system. You can continue to perform masculinity through noise and aggression, or perform intellect through passivity. Or, you can decide today to become an integrated man. You can step outside tomorrow morning, ingest the sun, shock your nervous system, lock your phone in a drawer, master a complex technical skill, speak from first principles, look into the vacuum of your own mind during deep solitude, and build a financial citadel that guarantees your freedom. The path of integration is heavy. It is lonely. It demands that you sit with the friction of your own contradictions until they forge an unyielding center. But on the other side of that friction lies a version of you that cannot be broken, cannot be programmed, and cannot be ignored. The blueprint is in your hands. Build your kingdom.